I never figured my life would transform into one of those emotional films you see on Netflix. Be that as it may, I'm right here, composing this out on the grounds that I really want to move it out into the open. It's long, however, trust me, it's worth the effort. Everything began about a year prior when my significant other, Sarah, and I moved into a decent, calm suburb. The sort of spot where everybody knows one another, and the most exciting occasion was the yearly area grill. We'd been hitched for a long time, and in spite of the fact that things were flawed, I thought we were in a decent spot. We had the typical high points and low points, however nothing I believed was strange. That all changed when we met Mike, our neighbor from across the road. Mike was beguiling, single, and continuously ready to assist. He was the sort of fellow everybody loved, and I wouldn't fret having him around. He'd frequently come over for a beverage or assist me with yard working. Sarah appeared to appreciate his conversation as well, yet thought nothing, until I began seeing the easily overlooked details. It was inconspicuous from the get-go. Sarah would grin excessively brilliantly when Mike was near. She'd chuckle at his jokes more than she snickered at mine, and they'd share these waiting looks that made me anxious. However, I got over it as suspicion. I let myself know that it was simply well-disposed exchange, and that I was adding a lot to it. However, at that point, things got unusual. One evening, I was burning the midnight oil, and Sarah messaged me that she was hitting the sack early. At the point when I returned home around 12 p.m, I saw Mike's vehicle left external our home. My stomach dropped, however I actually persuaded myself it was nothing. I strolled inside, and the house was dead quiet, with the exception of one weak sound that came from our room. I felt my heart beating as I gradually strolled toward the entryway, just to hear chuckling and quieted murmurs. I didn't have the guts to jump in, so I pivoted, went out, and sat in my vehicle, feeling like my reality had recently disintegrated. I needed to face them not too far off, and afterward, yet something inside me halted. I would have rather not simply gotten them, I needed to make them pay. From that second on, I chose to remember the big picture. I began following everything they might do. I'd leave for work yet sneak back to watch Mike go all through our home like he claimed the spot. Sarah would rationalize to get things done, and who could have imagined Mike would be there ASAP with her. Obviously they were utilizing me, embarrassing me in my own home. At some point, I set up a secret camera in our family room. I would have rather not seen it, yet I needed to know reality. What I saw was more regrettable than I had envisioned. They were right there, in our parlor, on our lounge chair, behaving like they were the ones who were hitched. I watched the recording, my blood overflowing with each second. I realized then that I wasn't about to go up against them. I planned to obliterate them. Sarah had no clue about that. I knew. I kept up appearances, behaving like the dumbfounded spouse while plotting my vengeance. I began gathering proof, reporting each meeting, each untruth. Be that as it may, I would have rather not simply uncovered them. I needed to hit Sarah where it would hurt the most. She had a lovely vocation in showcasing, and Mike was a regarded real estate agent. The two of them had notorieties that could without much of a stretch be broken. I figured out that Mike's land business was on the edge, one awful embarrassment, and he'd be finished. Sarah's work required a perfect picture, and any sprinkle of disloyalty could put her in peril. Equipped with this information, I began laying traps. In the first place, I sent a mysterious tip to Mike's colleagues, alluding to his not exactly proficient lead with a client. I incorporated a portion of the more implicating screen captures of him and Sarah in compromising circumstances. Then, at that point, I made a burner email and sent comparative proof to Sarah's chief, suggesting that her extracurricular exercises were influencing her work execution. It didn't take long for the bits of hearsay to begin coursing. I could see the frenzy setting in when Sarah's mindset at home went bad. She was continually anxious, actually looking at her telephone and, surprisingly, attacking me for not an obvious explanation. The last nail in the casket was my painstakingly arranged coincidental break of the secret camera film. I transferred it secretly to a local discussion where every one of the occupants could see the outrage unfurl. The aftermath was quick. Mike's standing was demolished for the time being. His colleagues cut ties, clients left by the thousand, and he turned into all the rage for every one of some unacceptable reasons. Sarah's manager went up against her, and however she attempted to deny it, the proof was evident. She was placed on endless leave, and her collaborators began dealing with her like she was infectious. In any case, I wasn't finished at this point. The most obviously awful part for them was on the way. I had been discreetly assembling legal documents and putting my funds together. I moved all our common reserve funds into a confidential record and made a point to report everything about her undertaking. At the point when I at long last stood up to Sarah, I didn't holler or shout. I basically gave her the pile of proof and looked as her face turned pale. "I know it all," I said serenely. "What's more, you'll be hearing from my legal advisor." Sarah separated, imploring me to excuse her, saying it was an error, that she was desolate, that it amounted to nothing. In any case, I didn't mind any longer. I had previously sought legal separation, referring to infidelity, which implied she would not get anything. Our resources were frozen, and she had no admittance to any of our records. I threw her out that evening, and she went to Mike's place. However, he was as of now not the beguiling neighbor everybody adored. His life was wrecked, and he believed nothing should do with her now that his business had gone under. She was abandoned, jobless, and with nobody to go to. I didn't feel regretful. They merited all of it. Right up to the present day, individuals in the local actually discuss the embarrassment, murmuring regarding how the ideal couple went to pieces in the most stupendous manner. Sarah moved away, and last I heard, she's attempting to revamp her life without any preparation. Mike sold his home and vanished, presumably to stay away from the shame of being the person who lost everything over an excursion. Concerning me, I'm showing improvement over ever. I'm liberated from the untruths, liberated from the misleading, and carrying on with my existence without thinking back. They figured they could play me, yet eventually, I played them. What's more, trust me, I regret nothing.